It happened at my cousin's wedding. The music had just faded, champagne was being poured, and the toasts had begun. I was seated at table 9, quietly sipping my drink when my grandmother, Eleanor, 82 years old and sharp as ever, stood up with her glass raised high. She cleared her throat with that same commanding presence she'd used at every holiday dinner for as long as I could remember. "I just want to say something really special," she announced, her voice cutting clean through the buzzing laughter and clinking forks. "Madison, sweetheart, your mortgage is now paid in full, to 250,000 gone. You deserve every penny." There was a moment of stunned silence, then a wave of applause and gasps. My heart stuttered. "Wait, what? Mortgage? Paid off? I didn't own a house. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment off Henderson Street in Dallas, still struggling to pay off my nursing school loans." I blinked, unsure if I had misheard. I stood slowly. "Grandma," I said, my voice shaky, "I think you made a mistake. I don't have a mortgage." The room quieted again, confused murmurs rippling through the air. Grandma tilted her head, visibly puzzled. "But the bank said the loan was under your name, honey," she insisted. "Courtney just closed on the property last month. It was a gift. You were the applicant." From the far side of the room, Courtney, my 26-year-old cousin, draped in a sparkly emerald gown, holding a mimosa, turned sheet white. The look on her face was enough to send shivers down my spine. And dangling from her bejeweled wrist was a gold house key. A thunderbolt of realization hit me. She had used my name, my credit, my identity. The laughter died. The music faded. The whole wedding froze in that instant. This wasn't just a mistake. This was betrayal. And it was playing out in real time in front of everyone. So many of us know the pain of being overlooked, underestimated, or sacrificed for someone else's comfort. But what happens when your own family sells you out? I was about to find out. If you've ever been the responsible one who gets nothing in return, leave a comment below. And please, like and subscribe, because the world needs to hear what really happens behind those picture-perfect family photos. I wasn't always the quiet one. As a kid, I was fiery, opinionated, even funny, or so my dad used to say before he got sick. But life has a cruel way of chipping away at that fire when you're the one expected to hold everything together. After graduating top of my nursing class at Baylor, I came home to Dallas to help care for Dad when he was diagnosed with early-onset Parkinson's. Mom was overwhelmed, and my 2 older brothers had already moved out of state, chasing tech careers in San Francisco and Denver. That left me, the daughter who always came through. For the next 6 years, I became the glue. Working 12-hour shifts in the ICU, picking up overtime on weekends, barely sleeping some weeks. All so I could help cover medication, therapy, rent, groceries. Everything. I didn't travel. I didn't complain, because that's what responsible daughters do. All while Courtney, my cousin, racked up followers on social media posting brunch selfies and self-care routines. She'd gone through 3 different career reinventions in 4 years. Real estate, then crypto, then finally branding herself as a wellness influencer. Whatever that meant. I smiled at her Instagram photos even as I reheated instant noodles after a 16-hour shift. Courtney lived with Grandma for a year to find herself. In that time, Grandma covered her rent, bought her a car, and co-signed a business loan. One she never paid off. No one batted an eye. Meanwhile, I drove a 2006 Toyota Corolla with a busted AC in the Texas heat and was still chipping away at $47,000 in student loans. When I'd quietly asked Grandma for help refinancing the year prior, she said, "Sweetheart, I know you'll figure it out. You're so strong." Strong. It's funny how that word becomes a prison. The stronger you are, the less help you get. The less visible your struggle becomes. And soon, people forget that you're even carrying anything at all. They just assume you're fine. But I wasn't fine. Not when I realized the person who'd taken everything from me, my name, my credit, my peace, had been under the same roof the whole time, getting everything handed to her while I clawed my way up from nothing. That night at the wedding, After Grandma's toast and the horrifying revelation, I left early. I didn't eat cake. I didn't dance. I went home, locked the door, and cried in the dark until morning. The next day, I pulled out my old file cabinet, the one where I kept every pay stub, tax form, and student loan letter, and started looking for answers. What I found would change everything. Looking through those dusty manila folders, I started connecting dots I hadn't seen before. Or maybe hadn't allowed myself to see. The signs had always been there. From the Christmas Courtney got a brand new MacBook and I got a 50-day gas card, to the time Grandma paid for her entire Bali yoga retreat while telling me she couldn't play favorites when I asked for help covering one hospital certification course. Growing up, Grandma always adored Courtney. She reminds me of myself at that age, she'd say, laughing as Courtney pranced around in designer heels she couldn't afford. Meanwhile, I was the girl with the extra shifts, the thick nursing textbooks, the baggy scrubs and dark circles under her eyes. I was practical, dependable, and painfully invisible. At every holiday dinner, Courtney got to tell stories about dates with musicians, celebrity DMs, juice cleanses. Grandma would laugh and glow with pride. No one asked how my patients were doing. No one cared that I'd helped save a child from cardiac arrest the night before. It was always, "She'll be fine. Madison's got it handled." When I found the bank letter, addressed to me but redirected to Grandma's house, it hit like a freight train. Mortgage approval, 250,000 loan. Closed last month. The co-borrower listed, Courtney Jane Whitmore. I stared at the document so long my eyes blurred. She'd used my name, my social security number, my credit history, my life. Rage boiled beneath my skin. Not just because of the theft, but because this wasn't a one-time mistake. This was years of entitlement, built on the foundation of a family that never questioned her, and always expected me to just be okay. I confronted Grandma first. I thought maybe she'd deny it. Maybe she'd say there had been a mix-up. Instead, she looked horrified. And then, slowly, ashamed. "I thought the bank meant her credit," she whispered. "Courtney told me you were helping her get started." I didn't know, Madison. I didn't know. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I walked out of her house with the letter clutched in my hand, tears threatening to break the surface. Later that week, Courtney posted a photo in front of a sprawling 2-story brick home. Caption: "Manifestation is real. Welcome to my dream house." And just like that, I knew. She wasn't sorry. She was proud. She thought she'd gotten away with it. But she hadn't counted on one thing: I was done being quiet, and I was about to make sure the whole world knew exactly what she'd done. No matter who I had to stand up to. I scheduled an emergency meeting at the bank listed on the mortgage. Lone Star Federal. The loan officer, a kind man in his 40s named Mr. Adler, seemed confused as he scanned my ID and typed furiously on his keyboard. "You're Madison Brooke Whitmore?" he asked. I nodded, trying not to shake. "According to our system, you are the primary on a $250,000 mortgage for 1847 Willow Creek Drive," he said, his brow furrowing. "I've never seen that house in my life," I said flatly. "And I never signed any paperwork." He leaned back slowly, now visibly concerned. "That's troubling. Let me pull the original documents." 10 minutes later, I was staring at a scan of my supposed signature on the loan documents. Neat, perfect, and absolutely not mine. The M had a curl I never used. The B looked too polished. It was forged, and not just forged, copied. Someone had clearly practiced. And then I saw at the co-borrower line, Courtney Jane Whitmore. Mr. Adler confirmed the application had come through their online portal and included scans of my driver's license and social security card. All valid. All stolen. I felt sick. I left the bank in a daze and drove to the address listed on the mortgage. It was in North Dallas. A beautiful neighborhood, manicured lawns, quiet streets. Courtney's car was parked in the driveway. She came to the door barefoot, holding a laddie, wearing silk pajamas. "Madison?" She chirped like we were best friends from college. "What are you doing here?" I held up the mortgage packet. "Care to explain this?" The smile faded instantly. Her eyes flicked to the papers, then back to me. Look, it's not what it. Don't even start. Her face shifted, the guilt quickly giving way to defensiveness. I was going to tell you. I just needed some time to get on my feet. You stole my identity? I said, my voice shaking. You forged my signature. You took out a mortgage in my name. You lied to Grandma. And you're living here like you earned this. I was making the payments. She snapped. It's not like I left you with the debt. I laughed. A cold, bitter sound I barely recognized as mine. You think making the payments erases the crime? You hijacked my life, Courtney. Do you know what that does to someone's credit? Their job. Their sense of safety. She folded her arms. Why do you even care? You weren't using your credit anyway. You rent. You don't even want a house. That broke something in me. It wasn't just the fraud. It was the entitlement. The belief that because I lived modestly, I didn't deserve protection. I left before I did something I'd regret. But I was done being silent. That evening, I filed a police report. I contacted a lawyer. Froze my credit. Pulled every financial record from the past 5 years. It turned out the house was just the beginning. Courtney had opened 2 credit cards in my name. A furniture financing account. Even a personal loan labeled medical emergency. I never got a dime of it. And suddenly, I understood why I'd been turned down for refinancing last year, even with my perfect payment history. My credit score had plummeted without me ever realizing it. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the mountain of forged documents and unanswered emails. This wasn't just identity theft. It was betrayal. By someone I had once braided hair with on Sunday mornings. By someone Grandma had treated like royalty while I quietly scrubbed blood from ER floors. But no more. This wasn't about just fixing my credit. This was about reclaiming my life. And I was just getting started. The next day, I didn't wait for Courtney to come to me. I went straight to Grandma's house, unannounced, with a folder full of documents, including police reports, forged signatures, and screenshots of Courtney's online mortgage application. I'd barely stepped into the foyer when Grandma looked up from her crossword and froze. Madison, she asked gently. You look like you haven't slept. Haven't? I replied, laying the folder on her table. You need to see this. 10 minutes later, her hands trembled over the paperwork. Her face turned ashen as she flipped through evidence of her favorite granddaughter's crimes. She used your name, Grandma whispered. And your money. She used everything, I said, my voice brittle. And you handed her the keys. Literally. I didn't know. You should have. I snapped, then immediately regretted the tone. But the truth was, she should have. She knew how hard I'd worked, how little I'd asked for. And yet she believed Courtney, the woman who couldn't hold a job for 6 months, had suddenly qualified for a $250,000 mortgage with no co-signer. The wedding reception was scheduled that afternoon. A smaller gathering for close family and friends to celebrate post-ceremony. I hadn't planned to attend, but something inside me snapped. They were all going to hear the truth. When I arrived, everyone was gathered in the backyard under strings of fairy lights and pastel banners. Courtney was already there, sipping rose and taking selfies by the garden arch. She looked serene. Smug. That wouldn't last. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I waited until Grandma clinked her glass for another toast. Something about love and legacy. And then I stepped forward. I have something to say. I announced, loud enough to stop every conversation. Every eye turned. I pulled out a stack of papers from my bag and held them up. This is a police report. Filed yesterday. And this, I raised another document, is a mortgage agreement for a house I didn't know I owned. Signed in my name. Forged by Courtney. A gasps. Courtney stole my identity? I said plainly. She used my credit, opened accounts, ruined my score. And she's been lying to everyone here for months. Courtney shot up. That is not what happened. You want me to show them the screenshots? I snapped. Because I will? Uncle Robert stood. There must be some mistake. There's no mistake. Grandma cut in, rising slowly. I saw the documents. The silence was deafening. Courtney's face turned red, then ghost white. You said she co-signed for you? Grandma barked. You told me she offered help? Courtney stammered. I didn't think. That's clear, I said icily. Because you thought you'd never get caught. Aunt Mary stepped forward. This is a family matter. Maybe we shouldn't. No, I said. We should. Because every holiday, every birthday, every barbecue, I've watched her be praised while I was invisible. While I worked double shifts. While I said nothing. Courtney's voice cracked. I just needed help. You needed therapy, not a fake mortgage. Grandma looked gutted. What have I done? She murmured, and for once, Courtney had no clever comeback. She just cried. But I didn't feel sorry. Not yet. Because she hadn't just stolen money, she'd stolen years. Trust. My very identity, and it was time she paid for it. After the barbecue confrontation, things moved fast. Grandma called me the next morning. Her voice was steady, but there was a wariness I'd never heard before. I need you to come over, she said. There's something I have to show you. When I arrived, she was already in her study. The one with the mahogany desk no one was ever allowed to touch. She'd always said it was off limits, unless it was for estate planning. But now, the drawers were open, folders and envelopes stacked high. She slid a thick manila envelope across the desk. Inside, copies of every bank transfer, account change, and transaction she'd authorized for Courtney over the past 5 years. I scanned through them, tens of thousands of dollars, all supposedly to help Courtney get her business off the ground, rebuild her credit, or stay afloat until the next gig. And one line stood out. A cashier's check, made out to me. Dated the summer I graduated nursing school. $20,000, I whispered. Grandma, I never got this. Her mouth tightened. I know. The endorsement line was forged. My name? But not my signature. She took it? Grandma said, her voice trembling. Courtney stole the check before I gave it to you. Told me you were too proud to accept it. That you told her to deposit it for rent. I never said that. I whispered, breathless. I know now, she said. Tears welled in her eyes. Madison, I failed you. That broke something inside me. All those nights I'd chosen ramen over groceries. All the skipped vacations. The broken, down car I couldn't afford to fix. It could have all been different. I could have had help. But I wasn't the one who asked. I was the one who handled it. Grandma buried her face in her hands and began to sob. Deep, gasping sobs that rattled her shoulders. I let her steal from you, and I didn't even see it. Because I didn't want to see it. I didn't know what to say. I'd never seen her cry. She was always the iron-willed matriarch, the keeper of traditions and family recipes. And now she looked small. I believed her because she reminded me of myself, she said, charismatic. A little reckless. But I never imagined she'd betray you like this. She didn't just betray me, I said quietly. She manipulated you. She knew what she was doing. Grandma nodded, eyes red. And I enabled her. She opened another folder. There's more. A full breakdown of every financial favor, car payments, apartment deposits, credit card bailouts. All given to Courtney under false pretenses. Altogether, Grandma said, it's over $87,000 in theft. Maybe more. I sat back, stunned. $87,000. Nearly 6 years of my life, stolen and used to fund someone else's lie. I stood up, suddenly suffocated by the walls of the study. Madison, Grandma said, stopping me. There's one more thing. She handed me a key. To the lake house, she said. I already signed the deed. It's yours now. I stared at her, speechless. That house was supposed to be part of your inheritance. But I can't wait for the future to make this right. I have to start now. I took the key in my hand. Not because I wanted it, but because I needed to take back something. Something real. Something that was finally mine. As I drove home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I let the quiet settle. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm. Because now, the damage was visible. And that meant it could finally begin to heal. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, the key to the lake house resting on my kitchen table, next to a folder that contained the truth about the last 6 years of my life. I didn't sleep. Instead, I made lists, calls. I filed a formal complaint with the credit bureaus, locked every account I had, froze my credit, created a timeline with every fraudulent charge, account, and transaction Courtney had made in my name. My cousin Jessica, who worked as a corporate attorney, helped me draft dispute letters and a potential affidavit of identity theft. "You're building a legal wall," she told me. "So even if this goes to court, you're bulletproof." I nodded, exhausted but focused. No one was going to save me, so I saved myself. The next morning, I received a voicemail from Courtney. "Madison, please. We need to talk. Grandma's threatening to press charges and..." I didn't mean for it to get this far. I was just drowning. "You've always had everything together." I deleted it. Then came the text from Mom's. "Can we talk before things escalate further?" She's still family. Still family. Like that excused anything. Later that week, I attended a private mediation meeting. Grandma, Courtney, Jessica, me, and a financial advisor. Grandma had hired the advisor herself to help sort through the mess. Courtney looked different. Her hair wasn't styled. Her nails were chipped. She wore jeans and no makeup. It was the first time I'd seen her look like a real person. Not a curated profile picture. She sat silently as the advisor read the total debt, more 92,000, including the mortgage, credit card balances, and interest. "You'll be responsible for repayment," the advisor said. "Madison has agreed not to press criminal charges yet, in exchange for full restitution." Courtney nodded, eyes brimming with tears. "I'll pay it all back. I promise." I looked at her. "It's not about the money anymore. It's about the years. The lies. The trust you shattered." "I know," she whispered. "And I'll earn it back. Whatever it takes." I didn't respond. Because part of me still didn't believe her. Grandma then handed me a deed to one of her rental properties. A duplex in East Dallas. "This is yours now," she said simply. To balance the scales. It stunned me. It also broke me. I'd spent so long accepting less. That being given enough now felt foreign. Unnatural. "You shouldn't have to fix this," I told her. "I enabled it," she said. "I thought I was helping Courtney find her footing. But I stepped on you in the process. And I'm done pretending that was okay." For weeks after that, I worked nonstop. Not just at the hospital, but rebuilding the life that had been taken from me. New bank, new credit history, new locks on my mailbox, even therapy. Because the thing about financial betrayal is that it feels personal. It makes you question your worth, your intelligence, your very identity. But every day, I took one step forward. And eventually, those steps became a march. 1 month later, the first rent check from the duplex cleared. I used it to buy a used Toyota, one that didn't stall at red lights or screech when turning left. It wasn't flashy. But it was mine, and that mattered more than anyone knew. Jessica joined me for a car warming donut party. We laughed until we cried, sitting in the driveway like teenagers again. "You know," she said, "most people would have just crumbled." Maybe I did. For a minute. "But you stood up," she said. "And now everyone else is the one scrambling." She was right. Courtney had moved back in with her parents, was working 2 jobs, and attending mandatory therapy sessions as part of our legal agreement. Grandma had rewritten her will and was slowly rebuilding trust with me. One small gesture at a time. And me. I was breathing easier for the first time in years. Because I finally understood something. You can't control what your family does to you. But you can decide how long you let it define you. The day of the formal hearing arrived sooner than expected. I hadn't pressed criminal charges, but to recover my credit fully, I had to present evidence to a financial arbitration board. Essentially a legal mediation involving banks, credit bureaus, and my attorney. Courtney was required to be present, as the person who had caused the damage. It felt less like a courtroom and more like a business negotiation. But the stakes were just as high. I wore a simple navy suit and brought a binder that had become heavier than it looked, full of fraud reports, transaction summaries, affidavits, notarized statements, and even emails Courtney had deleted from my account, but I'd recovered. Courtney sat across the room, looking like she hadn't slept. She fidgeted with a pen the entire time. The moderator started with the basics. Ms. Whitmore, do you acknowledge that the accounts and loans were created using Madison, Whitmore's identity without her consent? Courtney nodded, her voice hoarse. Yes. Did you benefit financially from these actions? Another nod. Yes. And have you taken steps to repay the damages? She gestured toward the documentation Grandma's financial advisor had submitted. We've set up a 5-year repayment plan, starting this month, and I've forfeited assets to help recover the loss. I sat quietly, watching her, feeling strangely hollow. It was the acknowledgement I needed. The truth, finally spoken aloud. After reviewing the documents, the board agreed to begin the formal credit restoration process. All fraudulent accounts would be flagged and removed. The mortgage would be closed and reassigned. My score would begin recovering within 90 days. Congratulations, Ms. Whitmore, one board member said to me. You've handled this with remarkable resilience. I nodded, swallowing a lump in my throat. Because they didn't know the whole story. They didn't know what it cost to stand there. Not just in terms of credit, but the emotional wreckage. After the hearing, Courtney approached me. I just wanted to say thank you, she said quietly, for not pressing charges. I didn't do it for you, I replied. I did it for me. She looked away. I'm trying to be better. I hope you are, I said, because I may have forgiven you on paper. But trust, that has to be earned. A month later, I stood in the driveway of the lake house. Not Courtney's new home. Not a place I was borrowing for the weekend. Mine. The title had cleared, the deed was in my name, and for the first time in my adult life, I had real financial security. I hadn't fully processed it until that moment. Holding the keys in my hand, stepping onto the wooden deck, overlooking the water. The sun glinted off the lake like a blessing I never thought I'd receive. Grandma met me inside, holding a photo album I hadn't seen before. These were your grandfather's, she said. Pictures of the original lake house when he built it in the 70s. We sat together on the old leather couch as she flipped through the pages. Black and white snapshots, birthday parties, fishing trips, laughter frozen in time. I should have seen this coming, she said softly, but I wanted so badly to believe Courtney could be better. I get it, I replied. I wanted to believe that too. She looked at me, her eyes full of something I hadn't seen in years. Not guilt, not regret. Respect. You've grown into the kind of woman this family needs, she said. Not because you're tough, but because you know when to stop being silent. I swallowed hard. Those words mattered more than I ever expected. The rest of the summer, I spent restoring the house. Repainting, updating furniture, planting new flowers near the dock. Each brushstroke was part therapy. Part declaration I'm still here. You didn't break me. The rental income from the duplex paid off the last of my student loans. My credit score ticked upward. The hospital offered me a daytime shift, better hours, better patients, better sleep. People noticed the change. Not just in my circumstances, but in me. I no longer apologized for setting boundaries. I no longer felt guilty for saying no. At the next family gathering, I arrived in a new dress, keys to my Corolla in my hand, and peace in my heart. Even Courtney showed up. Quieter, humbler, still paying off her debt. We didn't hug. We didn't pretend things were okay. But we coexisted. That was enough. Because I'd gotten something no one could fake or forge. My life back. They say family is everything. But what no one tells you is that sometimes, the ones closest to you are the ones who test your strength the most. Courtney didn't break me. Not really. What broke me was the silence. The years of being overlooked. Of accepting less because I was told I was strong enough to handle it. But strength isn't about how much you can carry. It's about knowing when to set it down. I've rebuilt my credit, my boundaries, and more importantly, my self-worth. The lake house isn't just a piece of property, it's a symbol. A quiet victory. A reminder that being the responsible one doesn't mean being invisible. And if you've ever been taken for granted by family, by friends, by people who should have known better, I see you. Speak up. Take up space. Demand your worth. Because loyalty without respect isn't love, it's control. Thank you for listening to my story. If any part of it resonated with you, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your story too. And please, don't forget to like and subscribe. Because your voice matters.